And the main strategy of Safer Cities is basically bringing together a coalition of partners that can work together to develop an action plan, do crime and victimization assessments, and work together to implement strategies to improve the city. And this coalition is really fundamental. It needs to bring together the local authority, crime prevention authorities, but also communities and other stakeholders. Could be the private sector, could be local schools, could be universities. So UN Habitat Safer Cities program has been working for about 20 years in 70, 80 cities across the world. Most of that time we've been doing analog work in a sense. A big feature of what we do is crime victimization surveys. Only 25% of crime is actually reported, so that makes it difficult to have an accurate picture of where crime is actually occurring in a city. So for a long time we've been developing victimization surveys where we basically ask people if they've been victims of crime and where. We've also developed tools like the women's safety audits, where women go out on the streets and assess the safety from a kind of bottom-up perspective, using pen and paper. Recently we've been starting to use digital tools to do these kind of things. We use Minecraft, the video game, for community participation in the design of safe public spaces. We're also starting to use mobile tools to enable citizens to record safety information, crime incidences and this kind of thing. But we're only right at the beginning. We developed what we call Safer Cities 2.0, which is basically a way to try to develop new tools and make use of technology that is not really available at UN Habitat, but that might be available in other sectors or within other organizations. And we want to build a broad coalition of different organizations that have knowledge in the area of digital technology to think about how our bottom-up approach to crime prevention can be enhanced by digital technology. Safer Cities is built on three pillars. Social factors, so involving youth, for example, in designing safer city strategies. We have law enforcement, traditional police and local authority led law enforcement. And then we have what we call the situational context, which is basically how the city is designed. These three elements need to work together in order to make a city safer. You need to, within law enforcement, for example, bring police closer to people, involve communities in designing crime prevention strategies. From the social context, you need to do training and awareness raising with youth, for example. The vast majority of crimes are committed by young men, and it's really important to involve them in these kind of strategies. And of course we have to think about building cities that are compact, integrated and equal. The current model of urbanization with huge slums, gated communities, high-rises, city divided into different zones, it doesn't really work. We need a more integrated, compact city. So basically the strategy to make a city safer from the Safer Cities perspective is to first build a coalition that can work together. It needs to involve all the local partners, which includes the local authority, crime prevention agencies, local communities, schools, universities. All members of the city need to get together to jointly develop an action plan, and that action plan needs to be built on serious data. What we find is that recorded crime is only about 25% of the actual crime that happens. So the coalition together needs to do crime victimization surveys. It needs to do, for example, women's safety audits to really get a good picture of where crime is happening and how it can be prevented. Based on that data and the research, the coalition then needs to develop an action plan, implement it and evaluate. But the key really is this coalition of different partners working together in different areas of crime prevention. From a safety perspective, we think that ICTs, digital technology, can really play an increased role. Traditionally, the main focus of ICT has been top-down surveillance type technology, for example, CCTV. And of course CCTV plays an important role in safety for for cities. But we also think that a bottom-up approach to urban safety is equally important. Whereas CCTV, for example, is perhaps good at solving crimes, it's not as good as preventing crimes. And there's also the question about who's actually looking behind the camera. So we think that a bottom-up, community-led approach to urban safety, involving all stakeholders, can really prevent crime in a completely new and different way. And there we think that digital technology can play an important role. Everything from finding ways to do participatory discussions among people in slums, for example, to using big data to understand how people move around the city, digital tools for crime reporting, which could complement our crime victimization surveys, and this kind of thing. And we're really interested in exploring different ways that digital technology can support the Safer Cities approach to crime prevention. So we think it's important to move away from the traditional approach of crime just being an issue for the criminal justice system, to do with policing, to do with putting people in prison and this kind of thing, towards a more integrated and holistic approach, which of course include law enforcement, but also looks at the city from the way that it is designed and planned, and social factors, and involving communities in preparing crime prevention strategies.